You have to have like real rigid requirements of yourself where you don't allow yourself to back out of things and you don't allow yourself to slack off. And I don't think people put those kind of requirements on themselves as if it is a daily principle of life, like what you must get done. You know, you must brush your teeth, you must exercise for 45 minutes. And if you did that, I think you'd be healthier and happier, and your body would perform more smoothly. And if you require your body to do things like that, I think it rises to the occasion. There are very few people that have that kind of discipline. So because of that, they come up with excuses. And excuses are a giant part of the problem. It's not simply a physical health issue. There's also mental aspects of it, and discipline's a big one. I just know way too many people who are weak mentally. And I can't just chalk it off to only, you know, their physical, the way they physically feel, because I felt like shit 100 times, and then I worked out, and then I felt way better.
Yeah,
it's just a fact of life. That's real. You know, you just gotta. And people don't know how to do that. And it's not. And if you're used to doing this, get in your car, sit down, drive to the office, sit down, go to the lunch, sit down. You know, go to the board meeting, sit down. Get in your car on the way home, sit down. Get home in front of the TV, sit down. Then go to the gym. Fuck off. They don't have any energy. You know, their body's not. Their body's like, I don't have it in me to do this. And I don't believe that. I think it's a lot of it is the mindset. I'm talking about the average fat fuck who's just sitting around being lazy. That's really what it is. It's like, I'm sure a lot of it is diet, and a lot of that diet affects their physical health. But there's been many, many people that have just put their foot down and said, enough. I'm going to change my life. And they don't take any excuses, and they feel way, way better. Diet is most certainly a part of that. But there's also a discipline aspect, and these things are not mutually exclusive. They exist together. They're all together, and they work symbiotically. The way your mindset affects the choices you make with your diet, and the mindset also affects the choices you make in terms of like whether or not you require yourself to exercise. And I think these are critical aspects that people like to gloss over, or they like to make excuses about. And they get very angry if you don't accept those excuses. And that's a sign that they're trying to enforce this standard and this idea and push it on you and give themselves an excuse. It's one of the reasons why they get angry. When we see things that are difficult, human beings are sort of puzzle and problem-solving oriented. We see puzzles, we want to solve them. We see mysteries, we want to find out. That's why everybody's into like Bigfoot and UFOs and because it's a mystery.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it? What do you think it is? Like, we have a natural inclination to try to solve things like that.
Yeah.
And we think that because in life, look, if you try to solve where the food is, you survive. That's what made us alive. That's why our DNA has been passed down for all these hundreds of thousands of years. Because our ancestors figured out where the food is. You know, they figured out how to drill a hole in the ice and fish. They figured out how to survive.
Yeah.
And this is why things that are difficult to do are attractive to us. But we have to be able to differentiate between things that are difficult and meaningful and things that are difficult and bullshit.
Yeah.
My friend, you know Brian Callen? Mm-hmm. My friend Brian Callen said something to me once when we were really young, and it was the perfect thing. We're both in our 20s. And he said, all you want is enough money so you don't have to worry about what something costs when you go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
He's like, everything else is bullshit. I was like, you're right.
Yeah,
like that feeling of being able to have enough money to just get a nice meal at a restaurant and not sweat it.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is gravy. If you had a kid, obviously you do have a kid, but say if you had like a 20-year-old and he's just a doper, where he wake and bakes and doesn't get anything done, he's just always like hanging out with his friends and playing video games, and he's just a loser. I wish there was a way you could show someone like that, like, I know that you're getting some comfort and satisfaction out of just laying around, doing nothing, eating, getting fat. But your life would feel better and richer if you had a goal, you chased that goal, you accomplished some things, and you would get this boost of confidence, you'd get this boost of self-esteem, like whatever it is that you're into doing. Maybe you're into drawing comic books. Maybe you're into making pottery or sculptures, but find whatever the that is and pursue that instead of doing nothing. Like, the people that are doing nothing, those are the real people. Look, doing something might be as simple as like that Alex Honnold guy. He just climbs rocks. but he's world-class rock climber. It's something.
But and it's also a goal of his, and he's also the best at it. Right?
Yes, yeah.
That guy was cool. It's like that, losing that guy. And I remember I saw these pictures and videos of him where he was real thin in the past. And I thought maybe he was like radical fasting or something. I had no idea. No one had any idea other than his close family. But just what an interesting guy, and just what a sad loss. He was so brilliant. Like that speech that he gave, the graduating class speech that he gave, where he's talking about all the things that happen to you are preparing you for your life and preparing you for the great things that can happen to you and how you'll grow from them. Just his perspective. He was just such a brilliant guy. It sucks so hard that some assholes live forever, and he was one of them. You know, I put on my Instagram, you know, when you see a person that it was inspirational for so many. Have you ever seen that video, the Avengers movie? I'll really tear up if I talk about this. When there is a video that someone took from the audience where they see on screen and the whole audience goes crazy.
We know how to manage our life correctly, and life doesn't come with a guidebook. It doesn't come with, when you're in this condition, seek out these remedies. Start exercising, get together with your friends, tell them you love them, meet up and have dinner and hug each other, sleep well, drink water. You know, so many of us have a bad head start. I mean, and then starts a family of his own where you don't even know your grandfather. I mean, it's madness, right? Coming out of this stressful pocket, or maybe your dad goes to jail, or maybe your mom dies when you're young. All these things that happen to people where they have this bad start in these communities of people that think the same way. Crime and despair and sadness and maybe just negative people. Annoying. Every day people complaining about you. You're stuck in the mud of humanity with people. It's real hard to engineer 350 million people out of that. You can take actions to make your life better, and if everybody did that, if everybody took actions to make their life a happier experience by doing those things, by exercising, eating well, just trying to be nicer to people. You know, the journey of jiu-jitsu is a fascinating one, because unless you're someone who's, you know, a Saulo Ribeiro or a Jocko Machado or just a true master who's dedicated their entire life to it, it's so long. It's like if you're a guy who runs, I like to run a mile 3 or 4 days a week, no big deal. But then, you know, your next door neighbor's an ultra marathon runner who's preparing for the Moab 240, where he's going to run 240 miles. You're never going to catch up the same amount of times, and you should always defer to that person when you have questions about running. And that's how it is with jiu-jitsu. Like, there's levels to that. So I always have questions. So the journey is never over. It's always long. A better way to get out of an arm bar, or a better way to set up a triangle, or whatever it is. There's so many variables. There's so many situations and interactions and exchanges and entries and defenses and way to chain moves together, and the correct way to set something up, to know that if you grab the lapel this way, the guy's going to try to shake it off that way, and that exposes this, which exposes that, and then the next defense will expose this. There's a lot of artists and comics, I bet musicians as well, but writers for sure. One of the big problems is sitting down and doing the work. And you got to, and Pressfield talks about that in the most concise and beautiful way. And he labels it like an enemy. He calls it resistance, you know, and that you have to sit down and you have to overcome resistance, and that the pro goes to work. And it doesn't matter if you're sick, it doesn't matter if you have kids, it doesn't matter what, you're a pro and you go to work. Just, it puts it in your head that this is what I do. This is what, and you have pride in that. And then when you are in front of that keyboard and you look down to count, it says, I got 1,000 words today. I put 1,000 words in. You're doing the work. Yeah. And out of that work, gems blossom. Yeah. Little things, but you might have a day where you just write nothing but dog. So what? Show up again tomorrow, and tomorrow out of that dog, a flower will emerge. You never know, and that's the only way to develop to really develop your potential 100% in anything. 100% in anything.